Yo, what's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join me on Patreon to get the complete version, the link is in the description. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension, create the evolution method. 1M. Chapter 1, I'm not a human anymore. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension, I created the evolution method. 1/360th. Chapter 1, I'm not a human anymore. Next. Shinobi World, Konoha, 60 years. The night is deep, the moon is in the sky and the moonlight is bright. In the southeast corner of Konoha there is a wooden house with its back against the forest. The wooden house is not big and a young man named Kamisato Tsukika lives in it. He exhaled a breath of turbid air from his mouth and Kamisato Tsukika's slightly closed eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were bright and there seemed to be fluorescence in his eyes. Kamisato Tsukika is 12 years old this year and he looks very handsome. Because he is not very old, he looks a bit delicate and cute. Finally, the third gate in front of the 8 inner gates is permanently opened. Kamisato Tsukika muttered to himself and the corners of his mouth slightly raised and he was in a very good mood. It's been a year since I traveled to the ninja world. In a year I went from being an ordinary student at a ninja school to permanently opening the 3rd gate, opening the 6th gate regularly and forcibly opening the 7th gate at the 8 inner gates. Only in terms of paper strength I should be an elite jonin in terms of physical skills at the age of 12. With other skills, my strength should be at the cage level, right? The only thing I lack now is the combat experience that the strong man has gained from countless times on the brink of death. It's a pity that my previous life was just an ordinary orphan with no family or bloodline and I traveled here too shortly, only 1 year, otherwise I would definitely be stronger. After all, I am a person with heaven-defying comprehension. Heaven-defying comprehension, the plugin that Kamisato Tsukika traveled through. How heaven-defying is this comprehension? After discovering that she had no bloodline and no family secrets, Kamisato Tsukika created a set of secrets that could absorb the essence of the sun and the moon to temper her body based on the Taoist classics she had read in her previous life and the chakra extraction method of this world. This set of secrets was named Sun-Moon Eclipse Technique by Kamisato Tsukika. Later, Kamisato Tsukika approached Might Guy by accident and obtained the 8 inner gates technique from Might Guy with her own efforts and Will of Fire. And she comprehended and deduced it, combined with the self-created Sun-Moon Eclipse Technique, and created a new 8 inner gates technique. The old 8 inner gates technique is very difficult to practice and requires great will and effort. Although the successful practice can greatly improve the strength of the practitioner, the cost is too high, which will cause great trauma to the practitioner's body. After opening the 8 gate of death he will die. Not only that, the biggest disadvantage of the 8 inner gates is its durability. The opened gate cannot last for a long time and it will be closed soon and the user will soon lose combat effectiveness after closing. In this way the 8 inner gates technique has more disadvantages than advantages for ordinary ninjas. However, the new 8 inner gates technique created by Kamisato Tsukika does not have the disadvantages of the old 8 inner gates technique. His 8 gates can be opened permanently. And with the physical training of Sun and Moon Eclipse Technique and the repair of the body by the essence of the sun and the moon every moment, the side effects of Kamisato Tsukika opening the 8 gates are completely eliminated. As long as Kamisato Tsukika's body is well trained, he will be able to open all 8 gates permanently one day. Most importantly, Kamisato Tsukika does not need to work hard day after day. The only thing he needs to open all 8 gates is time. In addition to the Sun-Eating Moon Technique and new 8 inner gates technique, Kamisato Tsukika also created some A-level ninjutsu. This is Kamisato Tsukika's heaven-defying enlightenment. To become a strong person, understanding, physique and will are all indispensable. Physique determines the lower limit, understanding determines the upper limit, and will exchanges for the potential brought by physique and understanding. In the ninja world, the representatives of physique should be the Otsutsuki clan and the races with their bloodline. The weakest Otsutsuki can have the strength of 6 paths. Unfortunately, the people of the Otsutsuki clan with the strongest physique do not seem to have good understanding. The abilities they use almost all come from the physique bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan and they have not created any amazing abilities. And the representatives of understanding should be Senju Tobarama, Orochimaru, Yakushi Kabuto and others. Especially Senju Tobarama, Reanimation Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Technique, Shadow Clone Technique. Unfortunately, the physique bloodline is not good, their growth is restricted, especially Senju Tobarama. If he has the Otsutsuki clan's physique and strength, will definitely reach a terrifying height. Quote, as for the representative figures of will, there is no doubt that it is Might Guy and Shaoli. Their will is admirable. Quote, but their physique and comprehension are too poor. The maximum height they can reach is only the power of 8 inner gates after the 8 gates are fully opened. Quote, in Kamisato Tsukika's mind a person emerged. Each of them can be called a legend. They are all amazing figures in the 3 characteristics of innate physique and will. But unfortunately they are only legends in their own characteristics. Since the history of the ninja world, no one has been able to combine the 3 characteristics in one. However, Kamisato Tsukika believes that that person will appear soon. Kamisato Tsukika will be the only one in the ninja world. Of course, will is not to be mentioned. Even if his physique is just that of an ordinary mortal, Kamisato Tsukika, who has heaven-defying comprehension, does not think that he can't find a way to change his physique. Ruchi Cave's Sage Mode, can't ordinary people's bodies evolve? Let's not talk about what happened to Orochimaru's body, but Yakushi Kabuto's body has actually evolved. Although my Eating Sun and Moon technique can also make the body stronger, if I want to make this body reach or even surpass the physical level of the Otsutsuki clan, I still need to further deduce it. Ruchi Cave. It's necessary to go there. Not only Ruchi Cave but also Mount Myoboku and Wetbone Forest, all three places must be visited once. After all, deduction is not just imagination, it also requires corresponding knowledge and experience. The practice methods of the three sage modes must be very useful to me. The three holy places Konoha Sanin. Chunin exam seems to be a good opportunity, Kamisato Uehua said to herself and quickly planned in her mind. After thinking for a while, Kamisato Uehua had a rough plan. However, Kamisato Uehua did not continue to think deeply. After all, there is still a long time before the Chunin exam and there are many variables. The most urgent thing now is tomorrow's ninja graduation exam. Naruto Mizuki and the Book of Sealing are really a godsend. Thinking of the plot in the original work, Kamisato Uehua's mouth curled up. After tomorrow there will be another Book of Sealing in his mind. Chapter 2 Graduation Examination. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension. I created the evolution method. 2/360ths. Chapter 2 Graduation Examination. The next day the sun was shining and the sky was clear. If it was normal weather, the students of the ninja school would definitely feel very comfortable and at ease. But today Uzumaki Naruto was destined not to have such a feeling. He was only afraid and nervous now, because today was the graduation exam day for their class. Moreover, the exam question was clone technique, which Uzumaki Naruto was least good at. The classroom where the graduation exam was held. Kamisato Uehua came in front of Iruka and Mizuki and made seals with both hands. Clone technique. The next moment more than a dozen clones appeared in the classroom. Seeing this scene, Iruka smiled. Very good, the number of clones has exceeded Sasuke. Congratulations Uehua, you passed. Iruka spoke and handed the ninja forehead protector in front of him to Kamisato Uehua. Thank you Mr. Iruka, you've worked hard. Mr. Iruka and Mr. Mizuki. Tsukika. Kamisato politely took the forehead protector and left in Iruka's pleased eyes. By the way, the next one is Naruto. Mr. Mizuki, please call him. Okay Mr. Iruka. After instructing Kamisato Mizuki, Iruka couldn't help but sigh as he looked at Kamisato Mizuki's back as she left. What a hard-working genius. Mizuki will definitely become an excellent ninja. Mizuki just smiled when he heard this. His mind was all on Uzumaki Naruto. But Kamisato Mizuki, after entering the classroom where the class was located, immediately attracted everyone's attention, especially the girls in the class. Amazing, it's Suka-kun, he's already got the forehead protector. Of course Suka-kun is a genius on par with Sasuke-kun. How could a ninjutsu-like clone technique possibly stump him? And both Suka-kun and Sasuke-kun are so handsome. So handsome Suka-kun, I love you. Listening to the excited words of the girls in the class, Kamisato Tsuka's heart was calm. He was used to it. There was no way he was too handsome. And he was a genius. Genius plus handsome guy, how could these little girls resist? Not to mention ordinary girls, even a lady like Yamanaka Ino looked at Kamisato Tsuka with shining eyes. As for Haruno Sakura, she still had Uchiha Sasuke in her eyes. And Uchiha Sasuke, he listened to everyone's words, equal genius, and, as good as Sasuke, and looked at Kamisato Tsuka with dissatisfaction. This is normal, after all a year ago he was still the undisputed top student. But a year later he became a genius on par with others. This made it difficult for Uchiha Sasuke, who was proud and felt that he was carrying the honor of the Uchiha clan, to be friendly to Kamisato Tsukika. He regarded Kamisato Tsukika as his biggest rival. Except Uchiha Itachi, Kamisato Tsukika was naturally aware of the hostility towards Uchiha Sasuke, but Kamisato Tsukika didn't care. They are now 12 years old and it will take 5 years for Uchiha Sasuke to enter the 6 paths level. In 5 years Kamisato Tsukika is confident that he will enter the 6 paths level first. Naruto, Iruka, teacher asked you to go to the next classroom for the assessment. Looking at Uzumaki Naruto, Kamisato Tsukika spoke. Uzumaki Naruto heard this and looked at Kamisato Tsukika holding the ninja forehead protector in his hand, and his heart became more restless. However, no matter how uneasy he was, Uzumaki Naruto could only cheer himself up and then walk to the next classroom. Okay. Kamiri Tsukika looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who passed by, and could clearly feel Uzumaki Naruto's nervousness. But Kamisato Tsukika's face was very calm and she was looking forward to it. If there was no interference from the Nine Tails chakra in her body, Naruto's clone technique would definitely be very good. After all, in the future Naruto's shadow clone technique is one of his signatures. Unfortunately, Naruto's clone technique is a mess now. But it's better this way so that he has the opportunity today. No accident happened. Not long after, Uzumaki Naruto returned to the classroom with a frustrated look on his face. He didn't get the forehead protector that symbolizes ninjas, so it's obvious that Uzumaki Naruto failed the graduation exam. However, this is not the worst. The worst thing is that after everyone took the test, only Uzumaki Naruto failed the test in the whole class. So after school, when people were excitedly sharing the joy of graduation with their families and friends, only Uzumaki Naruto was sitting alone on the swing in the corner of the campus, lonely as if blending into the dim environment. Kamisato Uehua looked at the lonely Uzumaki Naruto but did not go forward to comfort him. He just left the school calmly and began his day-to-day practice for the past year. Before Kamisato Uehua traveled through time, Kamisato Uehua's predecessor was just an ordinary ninja school student with no outstanding talent and belonging to the middle level. After Kamisato Uehua traveled through time, it was naturally impossible for her to lie down completely like her predecessor. Even if her comprehension was heaven-defying, Kamisato Uehua still made a high-intensity training plan for herself. It was not that she was looking for abuse. Although Kamisato Tsukika had heaven-defying comprehension, he did not dare to guarantee that he could have the power to sweep everything before being exposed. If Kamisato Tsukika accidentally exposed her strength before she had fully grown up and was suspected by the Konoha high level, her situation would probably become very bad. And hard work is the best way to dispel the suspicion of Konoha's high-level officials. As long as Kamisato Tsukika works hard enough, then Kamisato Tsukika's transformation from mediocrity to genius will become reasonable. People think that Kamisato Tsukika was mediocre before the age of 11 because he didn't work hard at all and was too lazy. In fact, Kamisato Tsukika is a very talented child, and Kamisato Tsukika's hard work also made his plan of Might Guy 8 Inner Gates technique very successful. After all, without enough effort and absolute will of fire, how could Might Guy teach 8 Inner Gates to Kamisato Tsukika? Exercise, short rest, and continue to exercise. Kamisato Tsukika repeated this until the sun set and the moon rose. Looking at the moon outside and calculating the approximate time, Kamisato Tsukika started the next exercise. Running around the village. As for why he chose to run at night, it was naturally for today. Kamisato Tsukika was preparing for tonight a year ago. Kamisato Tsukika is determined to obtain the sealed book. Chapter 3, Nine Tails Demonic Fox. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 3/360ths. Chapter 3, Nine Tails Demonic Fox. At night the moon was bright in the sky. In the forest at the edge of Konoha, in front of a wooden house, a boy carrying a scroll was panting heavily, but he looked very excited. Who, hey Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, who was panting heavily, looked up and looked at Iruka, who was sweating profusely with his hands supporting his legs and couldn't help laughing. This made Iruka confused for a while. You found out and I haven't learned a single ninjutsu yet. Uzumaki Naruto scratched the back of his head while speaking, not realizing how important the big scroll he was carrying was. You were practicing ninjutsu here. Iruka was a little confused. Uzumaki Naruto's reaction was a little different from what he thought. Listen to me, I'll show you a powerful ninjutsu later. If I succeed, you must let me graduate teacher Iruka. Uzumaki Naruto spoke excitedly. Thinking about the ninjutsu he had just seen, he couldn't help but want to show off to Iruka. Iruka's face changed when he heard it and he realized that something was wrong. Who told you this? Of course it was Teacher Mizuki. The scroll and this place were all told to me by Teacher Mizuki. Excited Naruto looked at Iruka's sudden change of expression and his voice couldn't help but weaken. Teacher Iruka looked how, swoosh swoosh swoosh. Before Iruka and Uzumaki Naruto could think more, the sound of breaking air had already sounded in the quiet forest and more than a dozen kunai had already gone towards Naruto from the darkness. Subconsciously Iruka moved, he pushed Naruto away and then crossed his hands to protect his head. Thump 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 thump. I didn't expect you to find this place. After Naruto screamed in pain, a slightly unexpected voice sounded. Iruka and Uzumaki Naruto looked in the direction of the voice. On the branches above them, Mizuki, who was carrying a huge shuriken, was looking down at the two of them. I see, I roughly know what's going on. Iruka looked at Mizuki in pain and spoke. His right thigh had been shot by a kunai and was bleeding at this time. Mizuki's sneak attack just now was very sudden. If it weren't for his instinctive reaction, it would not be his thigh that was shot but his heart. Mizuki didn't mean to talk nonsense with Iruka after hearing this. He just looked at Naruto. Naruto, hand over the scroll. Mizuki spoke, looking at the scroll on Uzumaki Naruto's back with greedy eyes. He himself didn't expect that the plan would go so smoothly. The Book of Seals was obtained so easily. Naruto, you can't give up the scroll even if you die, Iruka said loudly, pulling out the kunai from his thigh while staring at Mizuki to prevent Shisui from attacking again. That is a dangerous thing that records forbidden ninjutsu and is sealed. Mizuki used you to get the scroll. Uzumaki Naruto's body stiffened when he heard this, and Iruka's words made him a little confused. Mizuki looked disdainful when he heard this, looking at Iruka, who wanted to eat him below, and showed a contemptuous smile. Then he said to Naruto, Naruto, Iruka is afraid that you will get the scroll. This made Naruto stunned again, and he was even more confused. He just felt that his head was confused. Mizuki, what are you talking about? Iruka looked at Mizuki and yelled angrily, then looked at Naruto and said anxiously, don't be fooled, Naruto. The sudden change made Uzumaki Naruto unable to recover at all, and he didn't have time to think about it. Mizuki laughed first. He, I'll tell you the truth, Naruto. Mizuki said, his eyes became playful. And Iruka's face changed again when he heard it, and he yelled at Mizuki, a-hole. You can't talk about that. Mizuki ignored Iruka's roar, looked at Uzumaki Naruto and raised his voice and continued. After the incident 12 years ago, the village set a certain rule. A certain rule? Naruto spoke, subconsciously feeling uneasy in his heart. It's a certain rule that Uzumaki Naruto must not know. Mizuki looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who was still confused. His eyes were playful. I'm the only one who can't know. What exactly is the rule? Naruto was even more confused and questioned Mizuki loudly. I was told, Mizuki. Iruka was anxious, widened his eyes and yelled. If he hadn't been injured at this time, he would definitely attack Mizuki and stop Sasuke from continuing. It's the rule that you can never tell that Naruto's true identity is actually a fox demon. Mizuki ignored Iruka's warning. He looked at Uzumaki Naruto, and after seeing Uzumaki Naruto's changing face, he felt a sense of pleasure in his heart and continued. It's the Nine-Tails Fox Demon who killed Iruka's parents and destroyed the village. You have been deceived by the people in the village. Don't you think it's strange that everyone hates you so much? As soon as these words came out, Uzumaki Naruto trembled. Damn it, damn it, damn it. He roared angrily. His mind was in a mess and his heart was hit too hard at this moment. No one will agree with you. Iruka hates you too, everyone hates you, you killed people's parents, relatives, friends, you were a disaster, a fox demon. Mizuki continued to speak, his tone became sharp with a strong pressure forcing Uzumaki Naruto to break Naruto's psychological defense. The effect was also obvious, Uzumaki Naruto's psychological defense collapsed. So die Naruto. Seeing Naruto collapse, Mizuki grinned and threw the huge shuriken in his hand fiercely. This was very sudden. Iruka didn't expect Mizuki to attack Uzumaki Naruto without hesitation. Naruto, get out of the way. Iruka yelled. He seemed to forget the pain in his thigh and the whole person quickly rushed towards Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto didn't expect Mizuki to attack him. He looked at the flying shuriken, his body was stiff, his mind was blank. Fear made him subconsciously close his eyes to escape reality. Puff! The sound of a sharp weapon piercing the flesh echoed in the forest. Are you okay, Naruto? A familiar voice came and Uzumaki Naruto, who felt as if he was suddenly pulled away by something, opened his eyes and saw a delicate and handsome face. He subconsciously called out a name. Yuka. Chapter 4. It's not a fox demon. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 4/360ths. Chapter 4. It's not a fox demon. Previous. Next. Kamisato Tsukika. Mizuki looked at Kamisato Tsukika beside Uzumaki Naruto below and spoke in doubt. Obviously Kamisato Tsukika's sudden appearance was completely beyond his expectations. Tsukika. Great, take Naruto away, quickly run. Iruka's face was ferocious but his tone was urgent. He knelt down at the place where Uzumaki Naruto was just now with his hands on the ground and a huge shuriken on his back. That was the shuriken that Mizuki shot at Uzumaki Naruto, and Iruka blocked it for Uzumaki Naruto with his own body. Although it was obvious that even if he didn't block the shuriken, Uzumaki Naruto would be fine, but Iruka still did it subconsciously. In his heart, Uzumaki Naruto was very important. Teacher Iruka, are you okay? Kamisato Tsukika spoke to Iruka with concern, but his eyes were fixed on Mizuki on the tree. Although Mizuki is just a minor chunin, he is the first enemy Kamisato Uehua has met. When a lion fights a rabbit, it must go all out. Facing Mizuki, the chunin who wanted to kill him, Kamisato Uehua warned herself that she must take it seriously. I'm fine, you guys go. I'll hold Mizuki. Uehua, you quickly take Naruto to the village. Seeing that Kamisato Uehua didn't move, Iruka became obviously anxious. Go, hee. Today no one can go. Mizuki was also anxious. He knew that he had to quickly get rid of the 3 people in front of him and leave the village, otherwise when the ninjas in the village came, everything would be too late. After speaking, Mizuki threw another big shuriken in his hand directly at Iruka and at the same time jumped down from the tree holding a kunai in his hand and rushed towards Uzumaki Naruto and Kamisato Uehua. Run! Iruka's face turned pale and he shouted at Kamisato Tsukika and Uzumaki Naruto again. He endured the severe pain in his body and rushed towards Mizuki. Unfortunately, it seemed too late. At the same time, Uzumaki Naruto looked at Mizuki, who was rushing towards him ferociously, and the fear in his heart rose again. He wanted to dodge, but for some reason his body seemed to be out of control and motionless. Damn it, move! In the emotions of fear and unwillingness, Uzumaki Naruto seemed to hear something. Wound gate open. Bang! The terrible chakra burst out from Kamisato Tsukika, accompanied by the sound of flesh collision, and in the unbelievable eyes of Uzumaki Naruto and Iruka, Mizuki flew backwards at a faster speed. Kamisato Uehua also moved. He flew faster than Mizuki and came behind Mizuki before Mizuki stopped. He hit Mizuki hard again. Crack, puff. This blow made Mizuki spurt blood from his mouth and his body bent backwards like a waning moon. How is it possible? His eyes were about to pop out of his eye sockets, his face was pale, he muttered to himself, and then his body collapsed to the ground. Mizuki's spine was broken. He completely lost his ability to move. Seeing this, Kamisato Uehua breathed a sigh of relief. Then he exited his own injury mode and pretended to breathe weakly. How is it possible? Not far away, Iruka, who came to Uzumaki Naruto, was stunned. Looking at Kamisato Uehua and Mizuki standing on the ground, his heart was in turmoil. Kamisato Uehua unexpectedly killed Mizuki, who was also a chunin, in an instant. Great, so fast. Uzumaki Naruto couldn't help but speak and he breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately Uzumaki Naruto was confused again. He remembered what Mizuki had said just now. He was a fox demon. He was the fox demon that killed Iruka's parents, destroyed the village and killed many people. Mizuki, you just said Naruto is a fox demon. When Uzumaki Naruto was confused and at a loss, Kamisato Tsukika's voice sounded, attracting his and Iruka's attention. Hearing this, Mizuki, who was already desperate and could not accept the reality, was stunned and then laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto is the fox demon who killed your parents and made you an orphan 12 years ago. Kamisato Tsukika, you chose to save the fox demon that killed your parents. What would your parents think if they knew? It must be very interesting, right? Mizuki opened his mouth and panted to mock Kamisato Tsukika. He looked at Kamisato Tsukika with a vicious look, provoking Kamisato Tsukika. Yuka, it's not like that, Naruto. Iruka hurriedly opened his mouth, anxiously wanting to explain to Kamisato Yuka. But before Iruka could finish what he said, Kamisato Yuka interrupted him. No need to say more, teacher Iruka. I understand, Kamisato Yuka said, looking at Mizuki, who was looking at him with resentment on the ground, and then looked at Uzumaki Naruto. You said that no one would agree with Naruto. Iruka also hates Naruto. Everyone is resentful of Naruto. It was Naruto who killed our parents, relatives and friends. Kamisato Yuka opened his mouth, looking at Uzumaki Naruto's nervous, confused and helpless face, and sighed in his heart. This poor child took a big blame for Nine Tails. But if he didn't agree with Naruto, if he really hated Naruto, would Iruka-sensei use his body to block the attack for Naruto regardless of life and death? If he didn't agree with Naruto, why would Uncle Ichiraku prepare special ramen for Naruto every time, always leaving a bowl of ramen pretending to be unsold waiting for Naruto's arrival? If he didn't agree with Naruto, how could Shikamaru, who was so smart, accompany Naruto to skip classes? Choji, who was so greedy, would not pass the last piece of potato chips to Naruto's mouth. Although my parents died in the Fox Demon Rebellion, I don't think that Naruto, this stupid guy, is a Fox Demon. I don't see the killing, tyranny and destruction that Fox Demons symbolize in Naruto. What I see is just Uzumaki Naruto, who has few friends, is alienated by most people, and is obviously in the dark and lonely, but tries to live like the sun to illuminate others. Mizuki, remember, Naruto is not a Fox Demon, he is Konohagakure's Uzumaki Naruto. Kamisato Uehua looked at Mizuki again, her voice resounding. Uehua. Iruka looked at Kamisato Uehua in the moonlight, his eyes brimming with relief and tears. Naruto, however, was already in tears, his eyes streaming. Only Mizuki was stunned. He didn't expect Kamisato Uehua to say such a thing. Not to mention Mizuki, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had been watching with a telescope in the Hokage's office, didn't expect Kamisato Uehua to say such a thing. For a while, although the place became quiet, the hearts of several people were surging like waves. Who is it? However, before Iruka and Uzumaki Naruto could calm down, Kamisato Uehua seemed to have discovered something. He looked at the forest and spoke sharply while posing a defensive posture. This made the hearts of the two people lifted again. Anbu. A voice sounded and several people looked over and saw three people appearing in the forest. The three people were wearing Anbu uniforms and masks on their faces, making it difficult to see their appearance. But it was still possible to see that the three people were one woman and two men. The one walking in front was the only woman. She was tall and had purple hair. Chapter 5. Third Generation. A genius not inferior to Orochimaru. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension. I created the evolution method. 5/360ths. Chapter 5. Third Generation. A genius not inferior to Orochimaru. Third Generation Master. This is what happened. When I was training, I saw Naruto carrying a scroll and moving quickly, so I followed him out of curiosity, and then in the Hokage's office, Kamisato Tsukika explained to Sarutobi Hiruzen why she was there at night. Naruto and Iruka were in the hospital. Well, I understand. Good job, Tsukika. After listening to Kamisato Tsukika's explanation, looking at Kamisato Tsukika's open face, Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded to Kamisato Tsukika with a kind expression. He naturally knew why Kamisato Tsukika was there, because he knew Kamisato Tsukika's living habits better than anyone else in the village. After all, this is the only civilian genius among the younger generation in the village. And in Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart, Kamisato Tsukika is a civilian genius who can become a jonin in the future at the worst, so it is naturally worth his attention. It is for this reason that Sarutobi Hiruzen did not stop Kamisato Tsukika from intervening in this incident. Of course, it doesn't matter whether Kamisato Uehua intervenes in this matter or not, everything is under his control. Uehua, what technique did you use to defeat Mizuki? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked Kamisato Uehua again. His face looked solemn. He actually knew that it was the 8 inner gates, and he also knew that it was taught to Kamisato Uehua by Might Guy. But there was one thing that Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't expect. That is, Kamisato Uehua would be so talented in practicing the 8 inner gates. Hearing this, Kamisato Uehua did not hesitate and said directly, "It is the 8 inner gates technique which was taught to me by Might Guy teacher." At this point, Kamisato Uehua deliberately paused and then became a little nervous. Third Generation Master, this won't be a problem, right? Sorry, I pestered Might Guy to teach me. Might Guy. It turned out to be 8 inner gates. It's okay, 8 inner gates is Guy's family secret technique. He has the right to teach you this technique. And Guy also told me. Seeing through Kamisato Uehua's worries, Sarutobi Hiruzen interrupted Kamisato Uehua and said comfortingly, "Uehua, it seems that you have practiced 8 inner gates very well, and you can already defeat a chunin in the village. Great. It's still a long way to go. I'm only practicing the 4th gate now." Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked when he heard this. Although he had guessed when he saw Kamisato Uehua's speed through the crystal ball, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard Kamisato Uehua say that she had practiced the 4th gate. It is not difficult to practice the 8 inner gates to the 4th gate, injury gate. As long as you are willing to spend time and work hard, almost every jonin can do it. But being able to do it does not mean that you can do it in less than a year like Kamisato Tsukika. Not to mention you can do it at the age of 12. The last person who practiced the 4th gate, injury gate, in 1 year was Lee, Might Guy's direct disciple. The one before that was Might Guy. And Might Guy is now a genuine elite jonin in the village. And Kamisato Tsukika is different from Might Guy and Lee. Might Guy and Lee spent almost all their time practicing the 8 inner gates. The two of them can be said to know nothing about ninjutsu and genjutsu. As for Kamisato Tsukika, Sarutobi Hiruzen knows very well that Kamisato Tsukika has not neglected other practices except the 8 inner gates. His ninjutsu, genjutsu and his taijutsu are extremely excellent. He is really a genius. A genius who is not inferior to Orochimaru. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed inwardly. If Mizuki hadn't been so careless, I might have been defeated. No, I would have been the one who was killed. Kamisato Uehua naturally didn't know the shock in Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart. He just spoke shyly and then showed a scared expression. Fortunately, Mizuki was careless at that time, otherwise the Book of Seals would have been taken away by him. Hearing Kamisato Uehua say this, Sarutobi Hiruzen was very relieved, but his face became serious and he said to Kamisato Uehua, "No, Uehua, you are wrong. It is not terrible to have the Book of Seals taken away. In comparison, your lives Naruto and Iruka are more important. Hearing this, Kamisato Tsukika was stunned for a moment and then pretended to be moved. And Sarutobi Hiruzen continued kindly, speaking of which, I haven't been to the ninja school for a long time to watch your actual combat exercises. I didn't expect you to be able to defeat Chunin. Uehua boy, can you let me see your current strength? See my strength. Kamisato Tsukika thought a lot in her mind, but her face remained unchanged and she agreed. Okay, third generation master, let's go to the number 3 training ground. There are many training grounds in Konoha and the number 3 training ground is located near the Death Forest, which is a relatively remote training ground. But remoteness also has an advantage, that is quietness. Training here will hardly be disturbed, and even if you use ninjutsu it will not attract the attention of ordinary civilians in the village. After the old and the young came to the training ground, they both looked forward to it. Sarutobi Hiruzen was looking forward to Kamisato Tsukika's strength and wanted to see how talented this genius was. And Kamisato Tsukika was thinking about whether he could get some benefits from Sarutobi Hiruzen. Come on, let me see the strength of the chief student. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood opposite Kamisato Tsukika and spoke. His words determined Kamisato Tsukika's status as the chief student. Originally Sarutobi Hiruzen actually preferred Uchiha Sasuke, thinking that Uchiha Sasuke was the chief student this year. But today Kamisato Tsukika's performance really surprised him. She had just graduated from the ninja school, but she was able to defeat a Chunin. I'm sorry, third generation master. Kamisato Tsukika's face was solemn and she took a deep breath. Although she was not prepared to go all out, Kamisato Tsukika also wanted to know how strong she was in the 4th gate state. 8 inner gates, 4th gate, injury gate open. Swish. Chakra emanated from Kamisato Tsukika's body and his whole body emitted a green glow. His clothes moved without wind and his hair also swayed. Whoosh. Kamisato Tsukika started and the speed was very fast. The whole person rushed out like a high-speed sports car. In just a moment he had already arrived at Sarutobi Hiruzen's side. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Kamisato Tsukika's speed was very fast. He punched and kicked and his fists rustled. There were afterimages on his hands and feet and every blow was crisp and clean. This speed surprised Sarutobi Hiruzen secretly. So he planned to test Kamisato Tsukika's power. Bang bang bang. Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped dodging and fought Kamisato Tsukika directly. As soon as they fought, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a huge surprise again. Because Kamisato Tsukika was not only fast but also powerful. This speed and power completely reached the level of Jonin. Chapter 6. The third generation failed to show off. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 6/360ths. Chapter 6. The third generation failed to show off. Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked as he kept blocking Kamisato Tsukika's attacks. If we only talk about speed and strength, Kamisato Tsukika has definitely reached the level of Jonin. Even though Kamisato Tsukika's skills and experience are still immature, Kamisato Tsukika's reaction speed is too fast. With the ability to adapt to the situation, she actually made up for the lack of experience and skills. If it were just this, it would not be enough to shock Sarutobi Hiruzen so much. After all, Konoha has 12-year-old Jonin. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's mind, Hitaki Kakashi was stronger than Kamisato Tsukika when he was 12 years old. The reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen was so shocked was that he could clearly feel the improvement of Kamisato Tsukika. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, Kamisato Tsukika now was like a sponge that fell into the water, madly absorbing his combat experience. This shocked Sarutobi Hiruzen and made him serious. He was no longer just defending but took the initiative to attack, showing Kamisato Tsukika his physical skills and combat experience. Kamisato Tsukika was naturally not polite to Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was so considerate of her experience book and openly learned Sarutobi Hiruzen's skills and experience. The two continued to fight until a long time later when Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped. It was not that all his skills and experience were learned by Kamisato Tsukika, but Sarutobi Hiruzen believed that Kamisato Tsukika now had enough of these things today. After all, Kamisato Tsukika had just opened the 4th gate, injury gate. Although it felt that Kamisato Tsukika had already been like a fish in water in the 4th gate, injury gate, she was at ease, but she could not grow up in one breath and growth required a process. More haste makes waste, and Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted Kamisato Tsukika to walk more steadily. Kamisato Tsukika also sighed in her heart. After all, Sarutobi Hiruzen has such a good experience book. If he missed this opportunity, he would not know when he could break through him again. But there was no way. Kamisato Tsukika could not reveal that she was able to open the 6th gate Jingmun or even the 7th gate Jingmun. Being able to open the 4th gate in 1 year can be called a genius. If he could open the 5th gate, he could be called a genius in physical skills. But if he could open the 6th gate or even the 7th gate after practicing the 8 inner gates technique for 1 year, he would not be a human being. Sarutobi Hiruzen was fine, but Kamisato Tsukika did not want to enter Shimura Danzo's sight so early. After all, Shimura Danzo might uproot him or use his cells for experiments. Very good, Uehua, your taijutsu has surpassed the level of Chunin. I don't blame you for defeating Mizuki. You are worthy of being the genius of our Konoha. Looking at Kamisato Uehua, who was still savoring the battle just now, Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile, feeling very happy in his heart and happy that such a genius appeared in the village. Third generation master, you are too kind. I am only a little bit better in taijutsu and I am still far from ninjutsu and genjutsu. Kamiri Uehua said modestly, and her heart was not moved by Sarutobi Hiruzen's praise. But Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly had an idea. Speaking of which, I don't know how good your ninjutsu and genjutsu are. Since you have shown your taijutsu, let's show them together. This time use all your abilities. Come on, chief student. Kamiri Uehua's eyes lit up when he heard this and he saw that the experience book was coming again. Without hesitation, Kamisato Uehua attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen again. Kamisato Uehua raised her hand and shot out several kunai. The angles of these kunai are very tricky and the speed is very fast. Under the cover of the moonlight, if it is a chunin like Mizuki, I am afraid that he can't dodge it at all. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen is the third Hokage. Even if he is old and weak and his strength has declined significantly, he is still in absolute cage level. These kunai naturally can't do anything to Sarutobi Hiruzen. But Kamisato Tsukika's attack is not just kunai. When Sarutobi Hiruzen retreated to dodge, his body suddenly stiffened. Illusion. Release it. In just a moment the stiff Sarutobi Hiruzen recovered. He had just planted Kamisato Tsukika's illusion. It must be said that Kamisato Tsukika's illusion release speed and timing are extremely clever, which made Sarutobi Hiruzen fall into it. But that illusion is too bad. It is the most basic illusion taught to students in the ninja school, so it was instantly released by Sarutobi Hiruzen. It was not surprising for Kamisato Tsukika to see her illusion being broken. If even Sarutobi Hiruzen could not break this illusion, it would be a real surprise. Clone Technique. While running, Kamisato Tsukika formed seals with both hands and more than 10 clones appeared and went towards Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had landed and surrounded Sarutobi Hiruzen. This is an ordinary clone technique, not shadow clone, and has no actual combat ability. But at night ordinary clones have good confusing abilities. Kamisato Tsukika's clones are very clever and realistic. If it were daytime, Sarutobi Hiruzen might be able to tell who was the clone in an instant. But now it is night and there are many clones of Kamisato Tsukika, so Sarutobi Hiruzen cannot see through these clones at a glance. And Kamisato Tsukika wants this opportunity. Kamisato Tsukika rushed forward and attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen. This made Sarutobi Hiruzen confused, but he guessed Kamisato Tsukika's tactics in just 1 or 2 seconds. Bang bang bang. The clones were broken in Sarutobi Hiruzen's hands. In just a few seconds there was only 1 clone left out of more than 10 clones. It was also the one behind Sarutobi Hiruzen. Of course this one was deliberately left by Sarutobi Hiruzen for the last. It's a good idea to use the night and the clones to interfere with my vision and sneak attack from my blind spot in the chaos. It's good to be able to think of such a tactic in such a short time. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke with his back to Kamisato Tsukika. He didn't turn around and was very confident. But your tactic has a fatal flaw. It's correct to use clones to confuse others, but this use is generally used to escape or lure, not to fight. When your clone took the initiative to attack me, your true intention was exposed. Sarutobi Hiruzen said confidently, turned around and looked at the last Kamisato Tsukika under the moonlight. However, after he turned around his face changed slightly. Because the last Kamisato Tsukika in front of him, the real Kamisato Tsukika in his mouth, is still a clone. Guess wrong, third generation master. A voice sounded behind Sarutobi Hiruzen. Not far from Sarutobi Hiruzen, a kunai had turned into Kamisato Tsukika and now holding the kunai stabbed Sarutobi Hiruzen in the back. Sarutobi Hiruzen failed to pretend. Chapter 7. Learn it in one go. All attribute chakra. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 7/360ths. Chapter 7. Learn it in one go. All attribute chakra. Sarutobi Hiruzen's guess was right, but not completely right. Using clone technique to confuse vision and launch a sneak attack is indeed Kamisato Tsukika's tactic, but the most critical part of Kamisato Tsukika's tactic is not clone technique but transformation technique. This is the most basic ninjutsu, one of the required ninjutsu for every ninja school student. It is also one of the simplest ninjutsu in the entire ninja world. But simple does not mean useless. Transformation technique is a useful ninjutsu even in the later part of the plot in the Boruto legend, which has made Otsutsuki Kagaya and Otsutsuki Momoshiki suffer. And now Sarutobi Hiruzen has suffered a loss and was tricked by Kamisato Tsukika with transformation technique. Ding 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 ding. Under the moonlight, an old man and a young man held kunai and collided quickly, and every time they fought there were sparks flying and ding ding. This is a kunai confrontation, but it is not all a kunai confrontation. It was still a battle of physical skills, ninjutsu and illusion. Ding. After another collision, Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped on his own initiative. It was still the same reason as before. It was not that he was unwilling to teach Kamisato Tsukika his experience, but Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted Kamisato Tsukika to be specialized rather than complicated. Very good, your understanding and mastery of ninjutsu and illusion and the timing of releasing ninjutsu and illusion have reached the level above elite shunin. What you lack now is only powerful skills. Your skills are too few and too weak. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very satisfied with Kamisato Tsukika, and it can be said that he couldn't be more satisfied. Because of this fight, Kamisato Tsukika proved to him that Kamisato Tsukika was not just a physical skills genius like Might Guy and Rock Lee, but a comprehensive genius with all-round development of ninjutsu, physical skills and illusion. Such Kamisato Tsukika made Sarutobi Hiruzen think of 2 people in his mind. One is his disciple Orochimaru and the other is Hitaki Kakashi, the current elite of the village. No way, these are the only ninjutsu taught in the ninja school. Kamisato Tsukika pretended to be helpless and said, in fact he has mastered many techniques and they are all extremely powerful techniques. But Kamisato Tsukika did not choose to expose those techniques. Ha ha ha, indeed there are too few techniques to learn in the ninja school. But don't worry, you have graduated and you will learn many powerful techniques later. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke to comfort. Kamisato Tsukika's eyes lit up when he heard it. Hehehe, then third generation master, can you teach me powerful ninjutsu? Sarutobi Hiruzen heard it, looked at Kamisato Tsukika's cunning eyes and couldn't help nodding and smiling. After all, he still has some childish mentality. He sighed in his heart. Okay, I'll teach you a ninjutsu today. Let me think about it. Well, I'll teach you the Great Fireball Technique. Sarutobi Hiruzen thought about it for a while and decided what technique to teach Kamisato Tsukika. Strictly speaking, the Great Fireball Technique is a ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan and he has no right to teach it to Kamisato Tsukika. Doing so violates the village's rules. However, as the third Hokage of Konoha, what does it matter if it violates the rules? Uchiha Sasuke is the only one left in the Uchiha clan now, so who would object to teaching the Great Fireball Technique to someone who is not from the Uchiha clan? Konoha village is still up to Sarutobi Hiruzen. The Great Fireball Technique is a powerful fire-style secret technique that is very powerful and can turn the enemy into ashes in the flames in an instant. After saying that, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to make hand seals. The seal of the Great Fireball Technique is like this and the technique is. Sarutobi Hiruzen explained the technique of the Great Fireball Technique to Kamisato Tsukika while performing the seal. However, before he finished speaking, Kamisato Uehua moved. Siwei Shenhai Wu Yin. Fire-style Great Fireball Technique. Boom. Flames were exhaled from Kamisato Uehua's mouth and quickly grew larger, becoming a giant great fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters, emitting a fiery breath. The heat wave rushed to Sarutobi Hiruzen's face, and under the light of the fire the shock on his face could be clearly seen. After several seconds, Kamisato Uehua stopped transmitting chakra and let the fireball dissipate. Sure enough, it's so strong. Thank you, third generation master's ninjutsu. Kamisato Uehua pretended to be surprised and spoke, looking very happy. In terms of acting, he is definitely at the level of an actor. Quote. As expected of a genius chief student Uehua, your Great Fireball Technique is used very well, surpassing many people. Sarutobi Hiruzen suppressed the shock in his heart and spoke, looking at Kamisato Uehua with a happy face, and couldn't help but feel an impulse in his heart. Well, I'll teach you a more powerful technique. This technique is called Wind-style Great Breakthrough Technique. Sarutobi Hiruzen made a seal again. This time Sarutobi Hiruzen did not deliberately slow down the speed of making a seal. However, after just watching it once, Kamisato Tsukika made a seal. Wind-style Great Breakthrough Technique. A strong wind blew out of Kamisato Tsukika's mouth, stirring up a sky full of sand on the training ground, making the trees beside the training ground tremble. It's amazing, just as powerful as the Great Fireball Technique just now. Kamiri Tsukika spoke with shining eyes, and after a second of hesitation she continued with some regret. It would be great if these two techniques could be released at the same time. Fire borrows the wind and wind helps the fire. The combination of wind and fire must be stronger. As soon as these words came out, Sarutobi Hiruzen was shocked again. Kamiri Tsukika had actually thought of the attribute reaction of the technique. This was a bit beyond Sarutobi Hiruzen's imagination. After all, although many ninjas know how to perform combination ninjutsu, there are very few who can think of combination ninjutsu at the age of 12 after first contacting different attributes of ninjutsu. In Sarutobi Hiruzen's memory, the last person who was so good seemed to be his disciple Orochimaru. And thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly remembered something. Yuka, input chakra into this paper and try. As he said, Sarutobi Hiruzen took out a piece of paper from his ninja bag. This is chakra paper, which can detect the attributes of chakra possessed by ninjas. Although Kamisato Yuka had never seen chakra paper before, he knew very well that this was definitely it after reading the original work. Taking the chakra paper, Kamisato Yuka directly input his chakra into it. Then in Sarutobi Hiruzen's shocked eyes, the chakra paper changed. One area of the chakra paper caught fire, one area was split, one area became wrinkled, one area became wet, and one area was broken. This is fire, wind, thunder, water, and earth, 5 types of chakra. Kamisato Uehua is actually the owner of 5 types of chakra. No, it may be more than that. Because chakra paper can only detect the 5 types of chakra: fire, wind, thunder, water, and earth, and the other 2 types of yin and yang cannot be checked. So will Kamisato Uehua also have yin and yang attributes? Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but think of those 2 people again. Orochimaru and Hitaki Kakashi, they are both people who have all the chakra attributes. Chapter 8. I, the third generation, am the most suitable teacher for him. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 8/360. Chapter 8. I, the third generation, am the most suitable teacher for him. Kamisato Tsukika, could it be that he also has all attribute chakra? Thinking of this possibility, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Kamisato Tsukika with a fiery look. After all, ninjas with all attribute chakra are too rare. Sarutobi Hiruzen has seen countless ninjas in the past decades, but there are only a few ninjas with all attribute chakra. Although it is not said that people with all attribute chakra will definitely achieve great success in the future. But as far as Sarutobi Hiruzen knows, ninjas with all attribute chakra have achieved great success. His teacher Konoha's second Hokage Senju Tobirama himself, and his disciple Orochimaru, and the village's elite Hitaki Kakashi. 4 people with all attribute chakra, 2 of them became Hokage and 1 was called Sannin. The last one also became one of the most important elite ninjas in the village and one of the candidates for the 5th Hokage. It can be said that each of them has made great achievements and can become excellent Konoha shinobi when they grow up. Except Orochimaru. Recalling the disciple who once made him proud, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Orochimaru is also a very good ninja, but he is no longer a ninja of Konoha. His path has gone astray. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Kamisato Tsukika again. Although Kamisato Tsukika in front of him is still a teenager and his strength is only at the level of Jonin. However, Kamisato Tsukika is now as important as Uzumaki Naruto in Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart. Because Sarutobi Hiruzen knows very well that Kamisato Tsukika in front of him is very likely to be a more talented ninja than Orochimaru. Such a genius is very important to the future of Konoha. Because once trained properly, Kamisato Tsukika is very likely to be the next second Hokage Senju Tobirama, the next third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. If trained improperly, Kamisato Tsukika may be the next Hitaki Kakashi. Thinking of Hitaki Kakashi, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed again. He once had high hopes for Hitaki Kakashi, but unfortunately a series of changes occurred later which led to Hitaki Kakashi not reaching the height he should have reached. Starting from the death of Hitaki Tsukumo, Hitaki Kakashi's path has gone astray. Later his teammates Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin died in battle one after another, which dealt a great blow to Hitaki Kakashi. Until the end, his mentor 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato also died in the Nine Tails Rebellion, which became the last straw that broke the camel's back, making Hitaki Kakashi almost completely useless. But even so, Hitaki Kakashi can become a famous copy ninja in the ninja world and become an elite Jonin of Konoha. And once Kamisato Tsukika goes astray, Kamisato Tsukika may be the next Orochimaru. It is even possible that the degree of harm is higher than Orochimaru. Therefore the training of Kamisato Tsukika has become a very important thing in Sarutobi Hiruzen's mind. Thinking about it, Sarutobi Hiruzen began to think in his heart which class Kamisato Tsukika should be put into. In fact, the students of Kamisato Tsukika's class have already been allocated in Sarutobi Hiruzen's mind. Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba and Aburame Shino, who are good at reconnaissance perception, are assigned to one class led by Jonin Yuhi Kurenai. The fixed combination of Ino Shika Cho Yamanaka, Ino Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji are assigned to one class led by his son Sarutobi Asuma. One of these two classes is difficult to split and the other cannot be split. The last bloodline of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto of Nine Tails Jinchuriki, also need to be in the same class, and Sarutobi Hiruzen intends to let Hitaki Kakashi lead this class. The reason is simple. Both Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto are too important. One is the last bloodline of the Uchiha clan and the other is Nine Tails Jinchuriki. They will play a very important role in the village in the future. Therefore these two people cannot be lost. Their growth needs protection and monitoring. Therefore the teacher who leads them must be strong and must be a person of the Hokage lineage, a candidate for the future Hokage. And Hitaki Kakashi is undoubtedly the one who meets these conditions the most. As for Haruno Sakura, Sarutobi Hiruzen put Haruno Sakura in this class for a deep meaning. Uzumaki Naruto likes Haruno Sakura and Haruno Sakura likes Uchiha Sasuke. With Haruno Sakura, the three of them have a high probability of forming a bond. However, Haruno Sakura is not indispensable. Sarutobi Hiruzen is thinking whether he should put Kamisato Tsukika in Hitaki Kakashi's class. Or he can dismantle the perception detection class and put Kamisato Tsukika in that class. But after thinking about it, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that neither of them was suitable. Whether it was from the perspective of the teacher or Kamisato Tsukika herself, it was not suitable. Although Yuhi Kurenai and Hitaki Kakashi are both excellent ninjas, Yuhi Kurenai is only a grandmaster of illusions and can't teach Kamisato Tsukika anything. Hitaki Kakashi knows all ninjutsu and he is also a grandmaster of physical and illusions, and he is also a full attribute chakra ninja. Logically he is the most suitable person to teach Kamisato Tsukika. But Hitaki Kakashi's heart knot has not been untied and Sarutobi Hiruzen is afraid that Hitaki Kakashi will teach Kamisato Tsukika useless. Besides, although Kamisato Tsukika has just graduated, her strength has undoubtedly reached the standard of Jonin. What she lacks is only experience. With such strength she can no longer be taught in the normal way of teaching graduates. No matter which class she is in, Kamisato Tsukika will become a very abrupt existence. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen had a slight headache. If Orochimaru had not defected, it would be the most suitable for him to teach this child. After all, they are both full attribute chakra ninjas. Wait, full attribute chakra? I think I am too. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes lit up. He actually forgot himself. Kamisato Tsukika's best teacher is Sarutobi Hiruzen himself. They are both full attribute chakra. In terms of mastering ninjutsu, he is a ninjutsu doctor, and in terms of strength he is the Hokage of Konoha. No matter from which aspect, he is the most suitable teacher for Kamisato Tsukika. Moreover, since he was worried that Kamisato Uehua would be trained improperly or grow up in a wrong way by others, then he would train her himself. Orochimaru has always been a pain in his heart, and Sarutobi Hiruzen does not want to see the past happen again. He wants to train an Orochimaru who has not gone astray. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart became active. Uehua, do you know Anbu in the village? Sarutobi Hiruzen said to Kamisato Uehua, which made Kamisato Uehua stunned. Anbu. Chapter 9 Great Harvest. I want to become a god. Konoha. Heaven-defying comprehension. I created the evolution method. 9/360ths. Chapter 9 Great Harvest. I want to become a god. When Kamisato Tsukika returned to her cabin, it was already late at night. At the training ground, Sarutobi Hiruzen introduced Anbu to Kamisato Tsukika in detail and said that Kamisato Tsukika would join Anbu and be directly under the management of Hokage. After confirming Kamisato Tsukika's next arrangements, Sarutobi Hiruzen talked to Kamisato Tsukika about another thing. That is Kamisato Tsukika's physique. Because Sarutobi Hiruzen found that after Kamisato Tsukika opened the fourth gate of the 8 inner gates, not only did it last for a long time, but the sequelae after closing the wound gate were surprisingly mild. This is very wrong. After all, no matter whether it is Might Guy or Rock Lee, every time they open the 4th gate and above the 8 gates they will be accompanied by serious sequelae. Might Guy is okay, after all he has practiced the 8 inner gates for a long time. If he just opens the 4th gate, although there are sequelae, they are very mild, similar to Kamisato Tsukika now. But Rock Lee, who had also cultivated to the 4th gate like Kamisato Tsukika, was different. Sarutobi Hiruzen had peeked at Rock Lee's appearance after he opened and closed the 4th gate. He seemed to be exhausted and his body was limp and unable to move. After Kamisato Tsukika opened and closed the wound gate, she was only slightly weak and recovered quickly. This was obviously against common sense, so Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately called a medical Anbu to check Kamisato Tsukika's body. The result was naturally that there was no problem. Kamisato Tsukika's body had no abnormalities and was even healthier and stronger than a normal person's body. The reason why there was such a big difference between him and Rock Lee might be because of their different physiques. Kamisato Tsukika was a true physical genius, a genius who was more talented than Might Guy and Rock Lee. This surprised Sarutobi Hiruzen secretly, but at the same time he was pleasantly surprised. After all, he had decided to personally train Kamisato Tsukika. The better Kamisato Tsukika's qualifications and the higher her potential, the happier he would naturally be. After returning to her cabin and washing up, Kamisato Uehua lay on the bed and closed her eyes as if she was going to sleep. However, in her heart Kamisato Uehua had no desire to sleep at all. It was an unexpected surprise to get to know Sarutobi Hiruzen and become a member of Anbu. Kamisato Uehua's main purpose tonight was the Book of Seals. Although in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes Kamisato Uehua was just watching Uzumaki Naruto reading the Book of Seals on the tree and it was impossible for her to remember or learn anything. But he didn't know that Kamisato Uehua only watched Uzumaki Naruto reading the Book of Seals for a short moment and she completely remembered the contents inside. It's really a fruitful harvest. Multiple shadow clone technique, 4 symbol sealing technique, spiritualization technique, tandem paper bombs technique, reanimation jutsu, flying thunder god technique. Hiss, I'm going to take off directly. Looking at the forbidden technique of Konoha in her memory, Kamisato Uehua suddenly wanted to laugh 3 times to express her excitement and joy. But Kamisato Uehua immediately suppressed her excitement and began to think and plan. Multiple shadow clone technique is easy, you can learn it at a glance. The reason why this technique is a forbidden technique is not because of the difficulty of practice but because it involves chakra and mental power. The principle is to use a huge amount of chakra to increase the number of shadow clone, and thousands of shadow clone can be separated at one time. But because this technique consumes too much chakra and after dispersing shadow clone it will instantly receive the memory of all shadow clone. If you don't have a huge amount of chakra and a strong mental power, you will hurt yourself or even endanger your life if you use this technique rashly. There is nothing to improve. Instead of starting with chakra and mental strength, it is better to start with shadow clone's other fatal flaw. Shadow clone has the same combat power as the main body, but it does not have the same defensive power as the main body. Although the shadow clone used by powerful ninjas has enhanced resistance to blows, even Naruto's shadow clone will shatter and disappear as long as it is hit by a knife. So my next deduction of shadow clone should start with defensive power. This defensive power can be inspired by the body of Impure World Reincarnation or by the external incarnation in the myth of the previous life. Try to create a clone that can recover itself or has flesh and blood. However, for Impure World Reincarnation shadow clone you have to thoroughly comprehend reanimation jutsu, and deduction and innovation are necessary so we can change the way and start from the fixation and consumption of energy. Quote, you can try to combine the sealing technique and see if you can make the clone's injuries change from death to consumption of the energy it has until the energy is exhausted and the clone dissipates. Quote, Kamiri Uehua's mind was churning with thoughts and inspiration, and soon she thought of the deduction direction of shadow clone technique and multiple shadow clone technique. There are 2 directions that I can think of temporarily. One is the external incarnation of the flesh and blood body and the other is the energy clone of the immortal body. But this is not urgent, it is not my urgent need. What I need most now are the other 2 techniques. Temporarily suppressing the urge to deduce shadow clone, Kamisato Uehua put her mind on the other 2 techniques. Flying Thunder God Technique and Spiritualization Technique. Flying Thunder God Technique is naturally needless to say, it is simply an auxiliary divine technique that can attack and retreat. Whether it is the 2nd Hokage Senju Tobirama or the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato, their Flying Thunder God Technique has left a deep impression on the entire ninja world. One is known as the fastest in the ninja world and the other is known as the Yellow Flash. Both of them became the Hokage of Konoha, and because of the Flying Thunder God Technique they made the ninjas of other countries headache and helpless. They disliked them but couldn't kill them. This is the most real feeling and portrayal of the ninjas of other countries about the 2. Kamisato Uehua doesn't know when he can be invincible, but the Flying Thunder God Technique can prevent him from being killed by others during his growth to the greatest extent. So the Flying Thunder God Technique must be practiced. And there is a reason why Kamisato Uehua puts the Spiritualization Technique in the same important position as the Flying Thunder God Technique. Because the Spiritualization Technique involves the soul. And in this world there are too few techniques involving the soul. Another technique that Kamisato Uehua knows about that involves the soul is called the Shiki Fujin Technique, which even involves the gods. However, that technique is not in the seal book, or Uzumaki Naruto didn't find it, so Kamisato Uehua doesn't know the principle of that technique. But Kamisato Uehua knows very well that the Shiki Fujin is a technique that sacrifices one's soul and perishes together with others. Even if Kamisato Uehua has the Shiki Fujin technique now, he will not try it himself. Therefore the spiritualization technique which can make the soul leave the body is rare and precious. Kamisato Tsukika wants to improve his soul essence and his understanding from the spiritualization technique or even directly, turn his soul into a god. Chapter 10 Flying Thunder God Technique. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension. I created the evolution method. 10/360ths. Chapter 10 Flying Thunder God Technique. Yes, the reason why Kamisato Tsukika attaches so much importance to the spiritualization technique is because of the soul and understanding. Although Kamisato Tsukika has the understanding of heaven-defying, after crossing here she can learn any ninjutsu at a glance and master it immediately. Not only did she deduce the eating sun and moon technique that absorbs the essence of the sun and the moon to temper her body, but she also deduced the 8 inner gates technique that can open the door permanently. However, this kind of understanding is ultimately limited. If understanding is unlimited, then Kamisato Tsukika may have seen through the rules of heaven and earth, comprehended the supreme way, and become an omniscient and omnipotent god. Therefore, in order to achieve that level in the future, Kamisato Tsukika needs to make her soul as strong as her body and become a real god rather than a human with powerful power. And the spiritualization technique is the opportunity for Kamisato Tsukika to achieve her goal. After seriously comprehending the spiritualization technique, Kamisato Tsukika has mastered the spiritualization technique. After he confirmed that he was not being monitored by the third generation or Anbu, he made a seal. Suddenly Kamisato Tsukika appeared in the soul state. Lurking in the air the soul Kamisato Tsukika looked at his body lying on the bed, and a strange feeling rose in his heart. Then he controlled his soul to fly in the wooden house for a while and rushed directly to the roof. Without any obstruction, Kamisato Tsukika's soul went through the roof and appeared on the wooden house. What a wonderful feeling! These tangible things that the body can feel are like 3D projections for the soul becoming illusory. Looking at his hands and body, Kamisato Tsukika said to himself. According to the plot in the original book, the soul seems to be visible and invisible. The souls of those in the Impure World Reincarnation can be seen by people, but the souls of Shinigami and casters who have been to the Shiki Fujin cannot be seen by ordinary people. Whether the soul in the state of the spirit technique can be seen by people seems to be unclear. Can it be chosen by oneself? Thinking about the plot in the original book, Kamisato Tsukika became interested in the visibility of the soul. To be on the safe side, it is better not to wander around the village. After all, this is the ninja world and no one knows whether the perception ninja can perceive the soul. However, I can perceive the souls of others in the soul state. This feeling is very clear, just like opening a small map in a game and being able to see the location of the object you want to pay attention to. Interesting, very interesting. After a simple experiment, Kamisato Tsukika's soul returned to her body. The person who created the spiritualization technique is truly amazing, but his ability is limited after all, and he was unable to further develop the spiritualization technique from a killing tool into the key to the evolution of the soul and the path to becoming a god. But leave the rest to me. The deduction of the spiritualization technique is my most important task next. I will turn the spiritualization technique into the Deification Technique. However, compared to the Deification Technique, it seems that the Deification Technique sounds better. After muttering to himself, Kamisato Tsukika began to deduce the spiritualization technique with all his strength. A night passed like this. The next morning, Kamisato Tsukika opened his eyes. His brows were slightly furrowed and he looked a little tired. Because Kamisato Tsukika didn't fall asleep the whole night yesterday but deduced the spiritualization technique all night. Sure enough, it's not so easy to get results when it comes to things involving the soul. Moreover, I have too little experience in the soul and it's very difficult to deduce. Even if I combine the knowledge of the soul in Impure World Reincarnation, it's still difficult to get started. It seems that when Shunin takes the exam, he really has to meet Orochimaru. His self-created living corpse reincarnation technique also involves the study of the soul. Although the biggest problem with the living corpse reincarnation technique is also in the soul, it is a rare experience after all. Kamiri Tsukika thought to himself and had already set his sights on Orochimaru. However, he has been planning to take advantage of Orochimaru for a long time. A long time ago, when Kamisato Tsukika was planning to deduce Sage Mode, Kamisato Tsukika had already planned to take advantage of Orochimaru. Now he is just reinforcing this decision. It seems that the research on the spiritualization technique should be put aside for now. If I need to face Sannin directly during the Chunin exam, my current ability is obviously not enough. So I need to learn the Flying Thunder God technique first and try to deduce and innovate it. Even if I can't go further, I must be able to use it skillfully and integrate it. Thinking that the Chunin exam will be in a few months, Kamisato Tsukika can't help but feel a sense of urgency. In his plan, that will be a critical time point. Changing the next research direction, Kamisato Tsukika washed an aid and then devoted himself to the research of Flying Thunder God technique. Flying Thunder God technique is an ninjutsu created by second Hokage Senju Tobirama, which can be used for instant teleportation through the Flying Thunder God technique. This is a technique that requires a lot of talent. It is completely different in the hands of people with different talents. In the hands of Senju Tobirama and Namikaze Minato, Flying Thunder God technique is an instantaneous technique of teleportation without pre-swing or post-swing, elusive and hard to defend. But in the hands of ninjas with insufficient talent, this is a teleportation ninjutsu with a slow casting process which is not as practical as body flicker technique. It can be said that Flying Thunder God technique requires extremely high talent conditions for the caster. Those who can master Flying Thunder God technique are already 1 in a million, and those who can skillfully use Flying Thunder God technique are even more 1 in a million. Kamisato Tsukika was also worried before she studied seriously, fearing that her body was not suitable for Flying Thunder God technique. But this worry soon disappeared. Because Kamisato Tsukika only took one day to carve out her own Flying Thunder God technique and teleported between techniques. His physical talent is very suitable for Flying Thunder God technique. It was not until the evening that Kamisato Tsukika after the excitement remembered that he forgot to go back to the ninja school to attend the graduation ceremony and class division. Anyway, I have decided to go to Anbu and the class division has nothing to do with me. As for the graduation ceremony, I don't think anyone will care, right? Kamiri Uehua easily convinced himself, completely ignoring some little girls who were disappointed all day today. Sure enough, Flying Thunder God is more interesting, hehe. Chapter 11. Little Fangirl Ino. Konoha. Heaven-defying Comprehension. I created the evolution method. 11/360ths. Chapter 11. Little Fangirl Ino. Because he was too obsessed with the practice of Flying Thunder God technique, Kamisato Uehua forgot about the graduation ceremony. But as Kamisato Uehua said, it didn't matter whether he went or not because Kamisato Uehua would report to Anbu in 2 days. The 3-day holiday was specially reserved for him by the 3rd Hokage. He said that it was for Kamisato Uehua to get together with friends and classmates. Originally, Kamisato Uehua also planned to attend the graduation ceremony, walk around with everyone, eat ramen or something. But now Kamisato Uehua cancelled this plan. He wants to practice Flying Thunder God technique. How to say it, it is not difficult for Kamisato Uehua, who has the talent of time and space ninjutsu, to learn Flying Thunder God technique. He succeeded in portraying the Flying Thunder God technique in one go. But Flying Thunder God technique is different from other ninjutsu. This technique pays attention to the degree of practice and a kind of feeling. For other ninjutsu, you just need to make the seals fast enough and use them at the right time. This kind of hands-free ninjutsu is very simple for Kamisato Tsukika. But Flying Thunder God technique requires extremely high proficiency and reaction speed of the user. If the reaction speed is not fast enough, then after using Flying Thunder God technique to teleport, the whole person will be at a loss. You can't even tell east, west, south, north, let alone attack others. If you want to use Flying Thunder God technique as skillfully as 2nd Hokage and 4th Hokage, you need to constantly adapt to the feeling of the sudden change of the world and quickly react back from that switching feeling and make corresponding judgments and actions. In other words, it is the feel. This feeling and reaction require practice. Fortunately, Kamisato Tsukika's physique is strong enough and her physical attributes are much better than ordinary people, and her reaction ability is quite outstanding. This is why Kamisato Tsukika mastered Flying Thunder God technique in just 1 day and became proficient and improved through continuous practice. In the next 2 days, Kamisato Uehua planned to practice Flying Thunder God technique. After he thoroughly understood Flying Thunder God technique, he would deduce and innovate Flying Thunder God technique to see if he could go further. As for the direction of deduction and innovation, it was naturally very simple. It was nothing more than optimizing the Flying Thunder God technique to make the technique more secretive and simple. He could even directly optimize the Flying Thunder God technique to turn the fixed point transmission of Flying Thunder God technique into free movement. As for exploring the power of space and time through Flying Thunder God technique so that he could master the power of space and time, this was not what Kamisato Uehua should think about now. With his understanding, he could not do this. After making a plan, Kamisato Uehua devoted himself to the research of Flying Thunder God technique. However, Kamisato Uehua did not go to see those classmates and friends, but those classmates and friends took the initiative to come to him. As Uehua-kun home, hearing the clear and slightly nervous voice outside, Kamisato Uehua was not surprised and got up to open the door. Because he saw the person coming when he was practicing the Flying Thunder God technique just now. This is also the reason why Kamisato Uehua is in the room at this time. Ino, what do you want to talk to me about? Looking at the beautiful young girl in front of him, Kamisato Uehua asked. But he had already guessed the reason for Ino's arrival. Because Uehua-kun didn't come to the graduation ceremony and class division yesterday, I wondered if Uehua-kun was delayed by something, so I came to visit him. Looking at Kamisato Uehua's handsome and cute face, Yamanaka Ino's heart was already filled with pink bubbles and her pretty little face couldn't help but blush slightly. I was planning to visit Uehua yesterday, but after the class division one went to eat barbecue with Asuma and the others until late, so I didn't bother Uehua. Yamanaka Ino explained again and then asked curiously, Uehua, were you delayed yesterday by something? We are all divided into classes, but it's strange that I didn't hear your name in any class. As that's so, I was indeed delayed by something yesterday. I'm sorry that I couldn't go to the graduation ceremony. As for the class division, the village has made arrangements for me, but I can't tell you now. You will know later. Kamisato Uehua scratched her head, pretending to be embarrassed. I see, no wonder I didn't hear Uehua's name. But Uehua is worthy of being the top student of this class. It's amazing that the village can arrange it for you. Yamanaka Ino said with little stars in her eyes, and the whole person looked very happy and excited as if she was the person involved. Little Sakura and Sasuke looked so funny yesterday when they heard that Tsukika-kun was announced as the top student. Speaking of this, Yamanaka Ino covered her mouth and laughed. This is also the reason why she is so happy. In Kamisato Tsukika's class, the girls in the entire ninja school can be said to be divided into 2 factions. The fans of Uchiha Sasuke and the fans of Kamisato Tsukika are each a faction. And Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino are the representatives of the 2 factions. The 2 sides quarreled fiercely over who is stronger and more handsome between Uchiha Sasuke and Kamisato Tsukika, and they were almost at the point of being incompatible. So even though Yamanaka Ino no longer competed with Haruno Sakura for Uchiha Sasuke because of Kamisato Tsukika's time travel, the relationship between the two was still as fierce as fire and water, and both sides disliked each other. Under such circumstances, the village finally decided that Kamisato Uehua would become the top student of this year. For Yamanaka Ino, a loyal fan of Kamisato Uehua, this was naturally a very worthy and happy thing. Kamisato Uehua could only smile helplessly. At the same time, she felt in her heart that the star-chasing culture was really terrible. By the way, tomorrow Shikamaru Choji and I will meet Hinata Shino and Naruto Sasuke and Sakura to have a dinner together to celebrate our graduation.